Yeah, we're gonna bring that one forward. Let's talk about Erling Haaland. I think most of us could have guessed that he's going to go to Manchester City ultimately. I think Haaland to Real Madrid was more of a thing maybe a few months ago. I think as you saw it unfold, it was clear that I think Manchester City is probably the better fit. I will say this though, and I'm curious to know what you think. When I saw the numbers, unless it's not, I mean, it should be noted that I don't think we're being hit with the absolute up-to-date accurate numbers, so there's that. But when I saw the numbers, I was like, I was more convinced than ever that I think Haaland himself, and we can come up with all the things about Real Madrid pushing out their side of the story through various channels and networks and media that we didn't want him because of Benzema, etc. I'm not saying that's not true, but I think this is probably more of a situation where Haaland himself had the power to be like, my situation would probably be better at Manchester City. I'm the striker, de facto number 9. You airdrop me in, I score 60 goals, and everyone gets millions of assists. We win trophies, and it's straightforward. Whereas if I go to Real Madrid, I'm not really sure how that works. What's the fit with Benzema and Mbappe? Whose shadow I'm in? I'm not sure Benzema himself would have necessarily been too keen on making that work, because I think with him, Mbappe, and Vinicius, that's probably something that he's comfortable with and that makes sense. So I don't know. I think this probably just came down to Haaland himself being like, I think City's the better fit for me.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's the right move for all parties, especially given just where Benzema's at in his career. And it's hard to put, we talked about this before, it's hard to put like a time, I don't know what the word is, like a time clock, just a kind of end date on Benzema's when this form is going to fall off. He's only gotten better year after year. Obviously, Father Time catches up with everyone, but he could have another 2 or 3 years like this. We don't know. And so Modric has proved that we just don't know. And if that's the case, then there really isn't room for Haaland. And I think most people who listen to this podcast know I've been pretty vocal. I don't think Mbappe and Haaland mix, at least right now at this stage of their career, because they both want to be the alphas. I don't think this is similar to Cristiano and Bale, because when Bale came, he knew that Cristiano was still the man. And he thought maybe I'll become the man in like 5 or so years, but he knew that Cristiano was the man. And I don't see how it would mix well. And then you factor in Vinicius, you factor in Benzema, then now we have Rodrigo playing well. And I'm not saying Rodrigo is at the level of Erling Haaland, but he's another guy that I don't think folks would want to see leave Real Madrid at this point. So I just think at this right now, it's the right move. And who knows with Haaland? I don't think this is the end of the story. I could very well see him one day still playing for Real Madrid. And I think when he's older and maybe has had this career experience at Manchester City, has won trophies, has experienced the Premier League, maybe then he says, you know what, I want to join a tandem with Mbappe and really become that duo. He'll be at a stage in his career where he feels like, you know what, I don't need to be the alpha. Like, we can do this together. I think they both will.
When you say that, what's their, from a tactical fit? So first of all, it's, if you're signing Haaland and you're bringing him to Real Madrid, it's a no-brainer he starts, right? There's no scenario where a Galactico that big is ever going to come to be like, oh, you know, should he stay on the bench for Benzema? No, it's going to be Mbappe, Benzema, Haaland on the field. Those are the front three. So, and then you're looking at basically probably Benzema more on the left wing and kind of being the most interchangeable roaming figure in that front three, and Haaland being the 9, and Mbappe probably trying, again, these are theoretical discussions, but it's those three. Whatever the tactical fit is, it's those three. And then Vinicius and Rodrigo are coming off the bench. Again, I think it's Benzema and Haaland, which is the fit I would worry most about. It's not like a classic Benzema, Cristiano Ronaldo situation where Ronaldo would drift to the left wing a lot. This is a little bit different. Haaland is not that kind of player, But I still think it would work in a 4-4-2 or something like that. But the presence of Mbappe also makes this further convoluted. But that aside, when you say the alpha, because Mbappe and Haaland don't play the same position, and I wonder, like, don't you think they would just feed off each other and provide each other with goals? I mean, I don't, unless it comes down to like who gets to take the penalties and all that stuff. But I mean,
I think, yeah, I do think it does come down to, and like at the end of the day, like, you know who the franchise player is for the club. You know who the face of the club. Like, somebody's going to be earning that little bit more, or is going to be the guy, is going to be the standout, is going to be the one that you're in a Champions League final, 90th minute or whatever it is. Like the Juventus game, 90th minute, we're losing 3-0. Somebody has to step up and take a penalty. Who's that going to be? They both want to be that guy. And so I think that causes more issues than we realize. And there's with these big players, like, there's so much baggage. We saw it with Cristiano, and we've talked about it, how this team has such a great morale right now, and they have such great chemistry and camaraderie. If we bring in two, even if they're the greatest guys going, very professional, like, at the end of the day, players like that at that level are so egotistical. Like, and it's not, I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, it's part of the reason why they are where they are. But they come with the baggage, and they come with needing and wanting kind of that extra attention and expecting it. And I think it's really, really difficult to manage. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't think it's right. I don't think it meshes well at this point in Haaland and Mbappe's careers, and with Real Madrid, given the current squad they have.
I have a theory, because you said this is not necessarily the end of the Haaland to Real Madrid saga, or like that chapter is not closed, whatever. I think this is pretty clear. This is a stepping stone. If I'm Real Madrid, I'm actually pretty happy about this situation, because there's a reported release clause that kicks in after 3 years in this contract, which is like only 150 million. And that was, according to reports, because Manchester City wanted him to sign for 5 years. And Haaland's condition was like, if you want me for a 5-year contract, then put in a release clause after 3 years. And if that's the case, like, if everything's going well for Haaland, which is something we hope, right? We want him to succeed. We want him to be healthy. If I'm Real Madrid, I get to see, like, okay, I can use the next 3 years or so to evaluate. Manchester City is the guinea pig. And I can see how is he going to do? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be injury prone? Are his health issues just going to deteriorate and spiral even worse? Or is it all behind him? He uses the whole summer to get back into shape, and he just goes lights up, and he's insane for 3 years, and he's a Ballon d'Or guy and all that stuff. And after that, he wants to leave and join Real Madrid. Then you have that assurance, and you have a probably something reasonable to work with. And in the meantime, I think Benzema will probably be done by then. I mean, 3 years. I think a couple more years, I could see Benzema playing at a high level, but I don't think necessarily is going to be what he's doing today. It's just my hunch. I mean, these players can, sometimes they just decline faster than we think. Benzema's aged incredibly well, but there's going to be a time in a couple years where you're like, okay, I can see it. I can see he's slowing down. As much as I love him, I don't see this going beyond 2 years, in my opinion.
The other thought I had was, like, I think people forget how much cash is still going out the door with Mbappe right now, because even though he's free, it's free in quotation marks. It's still going to be over 150 million reportedly that we're paying out in bonuses and like upfront, and then you add his huge salary onto that. So that's not, I mean, I think that part of the equation is often forgotten. So then if you add Haaland to that, which I think the club would be in a position to handle both and could do both. But I think if they did, then there may be other pieces from this team that you'd have to be willing to lose. Are you willing to lose Ferland Mendy, Militao, Rodrigo? who I mean, other player, even Vinicius, like I don't think that would happen, but like marketable, high value players would likely go out the door. Fede Valverde, like I think the club would have to be forced to sell some players, and I don't think a lot of people would be okay with that. I don't know. I mean, I think would you be willing to sacrifice some of the core of your team in order to get Mbappe and Haaland? I don't know. I think we've seen that this team. The big question at the start of the year was, can this team compete? Can they win titles? Can they go to a Champions League final? And they've done that without Mbappe. I remember we were talking about, like, is it worth it to sign him to keep for PSG to keep Mbappe just from a financial standpoint if they win the Champions League? And the team that ended up going to the Champions League final was Real Madrid, not PSG. And I think when you calculate it out, there was an article recently that came out, and basically it's not worth it, because if you get to the round of 16, and that's where, like, you still make money in the group games and going to the round of 16. So you're really just counting the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and winning the final. And from that standpoint, it's still not more than 200 million. So I think PSG really should have just taken.
But for PSG's perspective, I would argue it was worth the gamble, because if they do win it with him, it's worth it, not just for financial reasons, but because
historical. Yeah.
Well, that was their whole goal. That's their whole. That's why they're doing this, is to win this damn thing and build something. And I think it went beyond money for them. It's like it would have been worth it, and I would have agreed with them if they had gone to the final and won it with Mbappe, like, and keeping him. It was worth it in my opinion, but they obviously didn't do that. So, and now their pettiness is coming back to bite them. But look, if it comes down to, like, the list of names you mentioned there in terms of people who have market value in the team, and when you said Fede Valverde, I just kind of felt sick for a second. I was like, that sounds like an awful reality to let go of him for a couple years of Haaland in advance. If it came down to fire sailing a bunch of players we love who are awesome, rather than keeping them and then get Haaland in 3 or 4 or 5 years, then I'd rather get Haaland in 3 and 4 and 5 years than sell these players. But it's true that the market value thing, like, this is one thing that's getting lost right now. A lot of Barca fans are not a lot of, but the ones that I know who understand football are upset for if Frankie de Jong gets sold to Manchester United, which at this point, Gerardo Romero reported that it's 95% going to happen. I think that's a big blow for them from the sporting perspective. But when you look at the players that have market value in their squad, and the fact that Frankie wasn't really used that properly, especially under Koeman, maybe under Xavi more so, he's being used properly. But when you look at the emergence of their midfielders plus the players who have market value, you can understand it. And it kind of is the same situation that we were in selling Achraf, right? Who has market value and which positions are expendable? It's unfortunately some of these young talented players that you might lose out on. I'd be interested to know what the final Haaland tally is, because everyone's saying it's 60 million. What a steal! I can't believe City only played for that. And, like, look, you look at Dortmund's biggest sales of all time. Transfer Market has it on their website, and it goes Ousmane Dembele 140 million, Jadon Sancho 85 million, Christian Pulisic 64 million, Aubameyang 63 million, and below those four, coming in at 60 million is Erling Haaland. But no one's talking about what the agent fees are going to be. We don't know. Whatever they are, they're not going to be cheap, right? But no one's really talking about that for some reason. They're all getting hung up on the 60 million, which is far from the whole thing. And he's getting paid handsomely. I think him and Kevin De Bruyne are going to be the top earners on the team. I don't know exactly where that would put him in the Real Madrid squad. I think it would put him on, like, around Luka Modric territory, but I'd have to look at it again to see exactly where he fits. But looking at our salaries, if somehow we can get rid of Hazard, which is probably not going to happen, that opens up so many possibilities for us. But Bale's astronomical contract coming off the books is massive. Marcelo too. You'd think they would be able to get it done. I'm still kind of feeling that it's more of like, it really didn't make as you said in the beginning of the podcast, it was a win-win for all parties for him to go to City. Because going to Real Madrid, I think, would have been, as much as I would have loved to have seen it, I can already see every little thing being under a microscope here. Every little thing in training. You see Haaland, like, if he rolls his eyes for 1 second, it's a front page story. Haaland already feuding with Mbappe. I remember what it was like in the Galactico era. I honestly think it was worse in 2000, that era, 2002, than it was in 2009, where like everything was under a microscope and everything was being blown out of proportion. And even if there was harmony in the locker room, the media would formulate something. And so, yeah, I could see it maybe working out a bit better in 3, 4, 5 years than it would now.
Yeah, I remembered what I blanked on now. It's the fact that, kind of to that point right there, like, I think if Haaland came now, I think he only would have stayed 2 or 3 years at Real Madrid. I think if he comes later, he could stay for however long, like 5, 6, 10, depending on how long his form lasts. And I think he would only stay for 2 or 3 because of the same reason Mbappe and wants to leave, and the same reason Neymar left Barcelona. That whole being the man thing, and you want to just have that protagonism in your career at some point. So he's going to get that with Manchester City. Mbappe will get that here. And then eventually, hopefully the two of them will come to a point where they're mature enough and want to have it, just want to win things, and they don't care who's on their team. And I know I'm reading into things that may not even be there, but I do think that's a factor. And then when you were listing off like Hazard, Bale, if only Real Madrid could actually get rid of all the players that they wanted to get rid of, like Mariano, Jovic, Bale, Hazard, Isco in years prior. Like, think about how much more room and ability they would have to actually make things happen on transfers and maneuver things and get a little creative. Like, that's just been such an Achilles heel the last few transfer windows. Like, we just haven't been able to get people off the books.
I'm annoyed that Aston Villa came in like this swooping angel for Coutinho at Barca. I'm annoyed. We need someone like Aston Villa to come in. We're lucky with Bale's expiring contract this year, but we need someone to come in for Hazard. I don't know who it is, but I really don't know who it is. And quite frankly, I don't think, if I'm running any club, I wouldn't even do it. I completely understand no one even touching that one.
The other problem is he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, and also the fact that he had surgery just makes him even more of a red flag for anyone who would even think about it at this point. He's back in training now. He may get some minutes to end the season. Obviously not in the final, but maybe in these remaining 3 games here. Probably the latter 2, if anything. But who knows? I mean, if he has a good... I guess we'll see what he looks like in the Nations League, because that's coming up this summer before the season starts, and we'll take it from there. But yeah, I just don't know if anyone's going to come in for that contract. I don't know if you saw this. Oh, actually, before I get to that, who is, like, in your eyes, on this Real Madrid squad, the most expendable, high-value, market-value player we have that you'd be like, okay, I would part ways with that? Is there anyone?
So if we're talking high value, so I'll give you like a list, and then we can go from there. So I think it has to be kind of like among the starters, or at least like 12 to 14 players deep. I think you have Rodrigo, Casemiro. You could argue Cruz even, Mendy. I don't know how much you get for Cruz though. Mendy, Valverde, Militao. I think those are your guys. And I don't think you include. Oh, did I say? I think Casemiro. If I didn't say him, I don't think you can include Cruz because I don't think you'll get that much.
Yeah, he's 32 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from that list, I mean, oh man, that's really tough. I guess Mendy, and I know there's been kind of rumors about that, but I guess it would be Mendy just because if you can bring in like a Fran or promote Miguel and then move over Alaba with Rudiger, like he becomes a little bit more expendable than others. I think I love Rodrigo. I wouldn't do it, but I think he's another one just because of who's arriving, and the positions he plays. Um, Other than that, I don't know. What about you? I mean, Casemiro, if you sign Tchouaméni, but
Yeah.
that's a big move. I don't think that would. I know there's been kind of rumors of that in the Spanish media, but I take that with a grain of salt. I don't think it's happening.
I
No
also
chance.
think Casemiro is a really well loved guy in the
Yeah,
locker room.
he's a leader. There's no
Yeah.
chance.
The one I looked at that I think is maybe has an underrated value is Asensio. Actually, um,
Well, I think that's a no-brainer for most people.
that's just a given. I hope that he doesn't get extended. I really hope he doesn't. Um, there's just too many other good players who are more efficient and do more and are more, I think, just involved and more important. And I'm fine with parting with Asensio. The other one is I wonder, like I'd have to look at it, but extending it to the players on loan, I wonder how much value like Kubo has, just from his marketing value and all that stuff. I
20
guess,
mil maybe.
yeah. I feel like you could probably boost his value if he gets a little bit better in the next like year or two somewhere. But I don't. I guess out of all our loanees, there's not many that really stand out in terms of market value either.
Honestly, if you buy back Fran Garcia, you could probably sell him for. But Real Madrid don't like to do that. But you could probably sell him for 20 to 30 mil. Left backs are a valuable commodity in the transfer market.
I feel like Miguel's value will be increased too in a couple years
Yeah, yeah,
if the world gets to see him more on loan. Regulon ship has sailed. I think we can agree on that.
yeah. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah,
Unlikely.
there's like literally been nothing on it either.
Yeah,
Like there's nothing.
I think it's just too expensive a buyback clause when you have guys like Fran Garcia and Miguel.
Yeah. Did you see ESPN had a report in their article that according to their sources, scouts at Chelsea, quote, raised concerns about whether Erling Haaland's style of play would be suited to the Premier League because there's less space for forward players to attack and run into compared with the Bundesliga. And when I read shit like that, I'm like, if that's true, like what mental gymnastics do you have to go through to come up with this story that Haaland wouldn't do good in the Premier League because of that? I'm like, you literally signed Timo Werner from the Bundesliga for how much money? Like, dude, Haaland is a freaking beast, man. He's gonna
And if
dominate.
anything, I think it'll be he doesn't score 40 goals, he scores 30, which is still phenomenal. Like I think that's what it'll end up being if that's like something
Does he
that's actually
possibly score more with
for
more
sure.
around
Yeah,
him? Like,
right now he's at a goal per game. If he's been a little bit off form after all these injuries, but
yeah. But that's the big one for me. I have no doubt that he's going to succeed if he's healthy. But is
yeah,
he going to stay healthy? And
yeah.
I think if he doesn't stay healthy, for God forbid, God forbid he doesn't stay healthy, there's going to be some people, wiping the sweat off their forehead, thinking we dodged a bullet there.
Well, it's also that, and it'll be interesting to see how he works with Guardiola, just because I feel like Guardiola's had difficulty in the past with strikers, and whoever it may be, they always seem to end up on the wing. So, um, and then he just goes back to his false nine or puts a midfielder there. So we'll see.
You imagine he just benches Haaland for a false nine?
Grealish and Haaland on the bench, 200 million.
If they don't win the Champions League next year, they should just shut it down. It's a fail. It should just come out. UEFA just give them an award. You failed. The first time in football history we are giving an award for failure. You can't have that many cracks at the Champions League and not win it, and then spend another $1 billion and then not win it. At some point, you just have to, like, you have to. I feel like they need at least like 3 titles now to make up for all these failures.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, if he still wants to leave, I'd make a cheeky bid for Bernardo Silva, test the waters, and see
Where are you
Manchester
going to put
City.
him?
I don't know. We right wing or something. I don't know. Mid center mid interchange with Modric. I love Bernardo Silva. I think he'd be a great pickup.
I mean, I just don't like our starting 11 with Mbappe is just ridiculous. Though I don't really know. Maybe you could put him in center mid, but again, I mean, the one I'd love from to have right now, outside of what we have right now and who we've signed, is if we can get Reece James, I'd be over the moon. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, happy that Carvajal's playing well right now, which is
yeah.
nice to see. Did you have anything you wanted to say, get off your chest about Mbappe's lunch in Madrid?
I just thought it was.